Hi everyone, it's great to meet you. Thanks so much for having me here. It's my first time at a peanut conference, and I'm really stoked to be here. So my name's Mary, I'm from Lithos Carbon. We're based on the West Coast, but we've got one of our co-founders is actually over around here in Georgia, and we're really excited to chat with you guys today. So when I was driving up from the airport last night, I met a peanut farmer named Tyler. He was my Uber driver, and he was chatting with me about some of the challenges that his family was facing. His farm is just 40 miles north of here. They were hit pretty hard by the hurricane, lost all of their cattle, had a really rough time, and it really just underscored for me how hard margins are in this business. I know this, my entire family are farmers over in Taiwan. They're smallholder vegetable farmers, and it's very hard to make ends meet. Another one of our co-founders, Noah, he runs a family farm in Wisconsin, and it's been 4 years since they've really turned a significant profit. So we're here to chat with you about how you can improve your bottom line while capturing carbon and hopefully improving the health of your fields. Okay, let's see. 1 second. Do you want the next slide? Sorry, some technical difficulties. Great. Also wanted to give a quick thank you to the Yale Center for Natural Carbon Capture, where our research has been based. We've been doing our research for about the last 10 years to develop this new technology for sequestering carbon in agriculture. All right, so high level, profit margins are really hard to meet in agriculture today. Part of this is because of the rising cost of nitrogen fertilizers, as I'm sure all of y'all know. Also the cost of limestone, that's been really significant and really challenging for a lot of our growers in the last year because of the war and other inputs. And carbon offsets, as some of you guys might know, provide a really lucrative method of supplanting your bottom line. However, at the same time, the carbon credits that are on the market today for agriculture are pretty low in cost and don't provide the biggest benefit possible. So what we really need to do is develop a technology that enables us to measure and empirically validate sequestration of carbon in fields, and that's what we've been working on. In addition, it's been hard to farm with increasing droughts, heat waves, etc. That's something that our technology also helps to address, and also topsoil loss. A lot of the farmers that we work with in North Carolina and different parts of America, they're really suffering from topsoil loss and doing everything they can to prevent this. America is losing topsoil 10 times faster than we're replenishing it, and something that our technology does is actually replenish that on your field. So what Lithos does is we provide crushed basalt rock dust to farmers to sequester carbon permanently in fields and improve your bottom line. Over here on the left, you can see a picture of one of our stockpiles of basalt rock dust. It looks the same as limestone. It acts pretty much the same as limestone, but it's packed with micronutrients, and it actually can also sponge up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere in the process as it dissolves in your field. And that's what we've been really working on optimizing and making safe and making really efficient for farming today. And what we do is we turn that into improved crop yields and carbon offsets. So can I see a quick show of hands? How many folks here know what carbon offsets are? Okay, just a few, all right. I was also gonna ask, how many of y'all earn carbon offsets on your fields today? All right, nobody. So we've got some work to do, and actually this is really exciting for us. This is actually our mission. Again, 2 of our co-founding team come from farming backgrounds. We want to really improve bottom lines. So what a carbon offset is it represents like a certificate for 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide removal on your farm. And I think one of the other speakers today will probably be talking about carbon offsets as well. So there's 2 different kinds of carbon offsets that exist on the market. One is for removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and the other kind is for keeping carbon in the ground. So there's removal, and there's also preventing emissions or reducing emissions. So the first kind, typically how carbon dioxide removal is done, looks really crazy. So this picture is like a real picture. Like I visited that just about a month ago in Zurich. This is a machine by Climeworks, like $1 million company, and they build these huge machines overseas near basalt, the same rock that we use, to suck carbon dioxide out of the air, and then they pump it, they condense it, then they pump it underground and stick it in basalt. And that's actually how they remove carbon dioxide from the air. It costs them millions of dollars to do this, and they sell these carbon offsets for $1,000 to $2,000 a ton, and they've been doing this for the last 10 years. Our technology is actually able to do something similar in terms of the quality of the carbon removed, but without building big machines. We work with growers like y'all. The second kind of carbon offset is the stuff in blue. So this is the stuff you guys might be more familiar with, or a lot of the growers we work with have already been tapping into today. So these are reducing or avoiding emissions. And so things like no-till, cover cropping, protecting a tree in a forest and hoping that nobody cuts it down, like these are nature-based carbon emissions reductions. And so these also work as carbon offsets, but because they're not permanent and because it's really, really hard to measure them and sometimes they can be reversed, these kinds go for much cheaper. So $10, $30, $40 a ton. So some challenges for the kinds of carbon offsets that are available to farmers today include the following. So a lot of the farmers that we work with, they already no-till. They already do cover cropping. I'm sure a lot of you guys do that to protect your soils, right? But the problem is that if you already do it today, a lot of the programs that can provide you a carbon revenue, they're not going to give you the carbon revenue because it's not additional. It's not a new practice change, which is not super great. So that's one of the challenges that growers face in tapping into the carbon markets. Another challenge is that this carbon can actually be easily reversed. So if you no-till your lands, you're keeping some carbon in there, but then if you till it a few years later, the carbon comes back out. And so buyers are sometimes kind of hesitant to buy these kinds of carbon offsets. So our question as we developed our technology was, how can we unlock really valuable, really lucrative carbon offsets for growers, help your bottom lines, and develop new MRV, which is a measurement technique, which enables these lucrative buyers to provide value to growers and buy these carbon certificates. So on this sort of spectrum of things, really expensive machines over here on the right, the nature-based stuff on the left, we sit somewhere in the middle. We are nature-based, we work with growers, we work with farmers, but we're able to do the same kind of quality carbon offset as the stuff on the right. So we're sucking carbon dioxide out of the air, sequestering it permanently, and being able to sell it for a really high price, giving farmers a really, really high revenue per acre. So how does that science work? We do something called enhanced silicate weathering. So silicate weathering is the process that we're inspired by. And silicate weathering is a process that already exists on Earth and has been working for 4.5 billion years. In a nutshell, what silicate weathering does is when atmospheric carbon dioxide is circulating around the globe, that combines with rainwater, and that produces a thing called acid rain, which we have all heard about. When acid rain comes down and hits rocks are mostly silicate, when it hits rocks, it leads to a chemical reaction where the CO2 in that acid rain becomes a solid bicarbonate, which cannot be reversed. That washes away into groundwaters and streams, goes into the ocean, becomes the shells of phytoplankton or oysters or sea creatures, and when they die, it falls to the bottom of the ocean and sequestered as solid rock. So you're taking atmospheric CO2, making it solid rock. The Earth already has been doing this for 4.5 billion years. Researchers have been publishing about this for decades and decades, and then only about 1 decade ago we realized, hey, can we speed this up? Can we actually make this happen faster? And so what Lithos does is we speed this up by 100 to 1,000 times by working with growers and land managers. So we use this thing called basalt. Basalt is a black volcanic rock. It's the stuff that Iceland or Hawaii is completely made out of. You guys have probably seen it. There's a lot of it in North Carolina, for example, some in Alabama. And so we take crushed up basalt rock, which is really rich in micronutrients and also is able to suck atmospheric CO2 out of the air and sequester it, and we give that to farmers. So we've got a really powerful capture rate. It's about 30%. So for every 3 tons of basalt rock dust that we bring to a farmer and help them spread on their fields, and we cover the cost of that, we're able to capture approximately 1 ton of carbon dioxide, which takes about a couple years to happen. And that's really, really significant in terms of carbon revenue. Another cool thing there is there's a circular economy going on. So we use waste crushed basalt. Some of it actually is organic certified at this point, which is cool. But we're taking stuff that sits in these big stockpiles at mines near you guys, and it's just a byproduct of the construction industry. It typically goes into concrete. So we're creating a circular economy and creating value out of the supply chain. So why agricultural lands? A lot of, we can do this in grasslands, we can do this in forest lands, but the reason we want to do this in farmlands is because we want to help feed the world, and this actually can really help with that. So in our trials, which have been going on for over 7 years across the world, not just in America, we found that we're able to improve crop yields by 10 to 40%, depending on the crop type and also your soil type. So actually the improvements are stronger in more acidic soils, kind of like the ones that you often see in the southeast. Essentially the basalt, one, it buffers your pH, and a lot of farmers today are not raising their pH to the ideal value simply because limestone is so freaking expensive. But because we're able to pay for the basalt with the carbon credit, we can give you the right amount of basalt to reach the ideal pH for your crop. And we engineer that with the biogeochemical process that we've developed at Yale University. And we're able to improve crop yields compared to a limestone control by up to 40%. And so it really varies by the field. Second, we also help regenerate topsoil. As basalt breaks down in your field, and depending on your soil type, it can also help increase the clay content of your soils. So that helps with moisture retention, with nutrient retention, and as I mentioned, it adds a lot of micronutrients. It adds P, K, molybdenum, Mg, calcium. It adds different amounts of these depending on the basalt source that we provide to your field, and we also work with our farmers to understand what the biggest gap is for them and which basalt source would be best for their particular crop that they're growing. Third, silicon is known to reduce or to increase plant resistance to droughts, heat waves, and pests. So there's data going back to the 1960s, all the way to some stuff was published just a few months ago, but how adding silicon to silica-stripped fields actually helps plants grow taller, stronger, have more lignin-like capacity, and fight out heat waves and droughts. Another really significant area of research is nematode resistance. So Iowa State's been doing studies on this for the last 5 to 6 years. They found that when silica, which is actually the main ingredient in basalt, when that is added to a field, it can help decrease nematode populations by as much as 40%. It's deposited in leaves as something called an opaline phytolith. It makes it hard for pests to chew on these leaves and they just die. So adding basalt to your fields actually can help with pest resistance. We're doing formal trials up in Michigan and across the states with extension officers to measure the impact of that today. Fourth, carbon credits, as we mentioned, our growers on average, when we work with row crop growers in soybean and in corn fields, they're able to capture up to 6 to 8 tons of carbon per acre per year. That's a lot. If you multiply that by a $500 credit, that's a lot of revenue. And so it's a really significant, new addition to your bottom line. And then finally, it's rock dust. You guys all use rock dust, I'm sure, gypsum, limestone, etc. We're able to completely replace limestone for our growers so that they don't have to pay for that, and they just use the same equipment to spread it. And we actually cover spreading costs as well. So overall, there's the science that we've been working on for a very long time. We spent a lot of time working on MRV so that these credits can actually be certified and sold, and we've gone ahead and sold those credits today and are giving kickbacks to farmers. Second, all of these different co-benefits for growers are really, really important, and what we really focus on right now as we start to scale up in different working farm settings across America. We're live on about 1,000 acres right now. We're scaling that up, and we're excited to work with anyone else who is interested in trying this out on your fields. Another cool thing we do is we actually guarantee crop yield. So, if you apply this compared to limestone control, we make sure that your crop yields do not see any negative impact. And that's the baseline that we start with. We're able to do that because we've spent so much time on the technology development, and we're confident in the pH results that we generate. Whoops. And third, a shared mission with peanut growers, growing the future of tomorrow, figuring out a way of making all of your crops more sustainable. That's something we're really passionate about. So finally, ease of adoption. We try to make this really easy for growers. Basically, all we need is a quick soil sample that we can pay for, or if you have one, you just send that over to us. We're able to calculate their biogeochemical model, how much basalt you need in your farms to reach your target pH and to capture carbon as quickly as possible. We bring the basalt to our farmers. They go ahead and spread that with whatever, typical ag lime spreader that they want. It could be mixed in with other gypsums or other, rock dust that you want to apply. And then they go ahead and spread that. 6 months later, after the harvest, we roll up, we get a quick soil sample, we do a proprietary isotope tracer analysis on this, and that enables us to generate that certificate, that carbon offset, and we sell that to usually large tech companies, and give the kickback to the farmers. So we try and make this really, really simple for growers. In terms of peanuts, I was talking with Eric Cornell from who's the head of sustainability at American Peanuts, and we know that today, in Georgia, for example, that the average footprint of an acre of peanuts every single year in Georgia is about 1,300 pounds of CO2 produced. With just 2 tons of basalt applied to that field per year, you can actually turn all of the peanuts on every acre of land in Georgia carbon negative. Like, you can have a climate change fighting peanut. That's pretty wild, and that's something that's never been possible before with different, technologies in agriculture. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we do. On the left side, you can kind of see research. It's going live. It's not just in a research setting anymore. We're actually deploying it across America. On the right, you can kind of see the commitments from carbon buyers today. Carbon offsets are already a $1 billion industry in America. McKinsey expects that might become $30 billion by 2030. The reason for this is that all these different companies, from Kraft to Google to Microsoft to FedEx, they've all made net zero commitments by 2040. And they have no way of doing that unless they buy these carbon offsets. So that's a growing market, and we hope to help y'all tap into that with enhanced rock weathering. In summary, we do enhanced rock weathering on fields. We replace limestone costs. We are able to suck atmospheric carbon out of the atmosphere and sequester it permanently while improving bottom lines for growers. There's a little bit of a story that I kind of like where when we went out to raise money and start this commercial company around this, a lot of Silicon Valley investors were like, do farmers really want to try something new? Like, do they want to try a new technology? And I was like, yes, of course. Farmers are feeding America by adopting cutting-edge practices every single day. Like, I look at this room and I see like a room full of experts who are adopting precision agriculture, new machines, new strains of peanuts, like really trying everything new to optimize your fields, make them more sustainable, make them more productive, and feed our country. And so we hope to be part of that portfolio of things that you develop. We would love if you reached out to us. We would love to chat with you and talk about the economics of what this would look like on your specific farm, and figure out how we can, feed the future. Great, so you can reach out to us at team@lithoscarbon.com, or you can text or call us anytime, 425-495-4610. We would love to chat with you. And if you're interested in the science, like if there are any science or policy folks in the room, like these are my co-founders, professors at Yale and Georgia Tech, would love to chat with you about the actual science that we do, and then my contact info is on the right. Great, would love to take any questions with the remaining time. Thank you.